Yeah, thank you, everyone. What a wonderful place this is. It really is wonderful. Fantastic music, beautiful music, fantastic meditation. I just love that. Thank you so much. And what a warm welcome in a beautiful, beautiful building. So thank you. My ministry is in the Chicago area, but I actually live in rural Wisconsin. So I actually live 100 miles away from my ministry. So I am committed. So today, if I can get this going right, we're talking about sweet mercy. Now, I picked this topic as a topic that kind of goes along with the film that's being showed this afternoon, but also mercy is just something that we don't really talk about a lot. It's not a word that's in our lexicon a lot. We talk about compassion and kindness, and today I wanted to kind of pull apart this idea of mercy, and boy, did the meditation touch on that, so thank you. This is really part of a series that I did on the Beatitudes. And when I talk about mercy, I want to talk about it from the framework of the Beatitudes. And this fifth one in particular, that says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." So the Beatitudes came from the Sermon on the Mount, which was Jesus' longest speech and his largest body of teaching. And the Beatitudes were actually a preamble to that. Jesus actually gathered with his disciples. If you really look at it, in Matthew chapter 5 through 7, he gathers with his disciples, and he states the Beatitudes, and then he goes to this whole Sermon on the Mount, which was all that you are the salt of the earth and you're the light of the world and all that. And at the end it says, and the entire crowd was so happy. So somehow between the beginning, where he just gathers his own people, and in the end he had this huge applause, a lot of people gathered. And everybody knows about this Sermon on the Mount. So we're going to be talking about So the Beatitudes are the 8 opening statements, and they are inner attitudes of being. So Jesus is not out there saying, let's go fix the world, let me tell you what's wrong with it, and let's go fix that. He's there saying, blessed are those who have these attitudes of being. And what's so interesting about these attitudes of being is there are a revolutionary set of ideas that completely upend the power structure at the time. So at the time, and kind of similar to now, this idea that power comes from force and power and status. And all of his statements in the Beatitude were completely the opposite of that, where what he's basically saying is the ideals of love and humility are the ones that really have power. So the Beatitudes kind of look like this. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, they shall be called children of God. And then the last one is those who seek righteousness, they will also receive the kingdom of heaven. So what's interesting about these Beatitudes is each one is a statement, a condition, that whoever actually embodies this condition, that there is a promise. So blessed actually means happy. When you are this, you are happy. It's not like some external blessing, but that you will experience divine joy, and that you are fortunate, and that you are to be congratulated, basically because you are embodying the attributes of spirit, because you're actually doing that which wells up within you to be your honest, authentic self. And that there is a promise for each one of these conditions. So if you are this, then that. Now, the interesting thing about blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. This is the fifth one. It is the only beatitude where the promise is the exact same as the condition. So basically, Jesus is saying, when you are merciful, you will be blessed and you will receive mercy. All of the other Beatitudes have a different promise for the condition. So it's kind of interesting to be in that inquiry, like, why is that? And I think we're going to go through this, and you'll see that mercy is exactly what you get back when you express it. So let's talk a little bit about what mercy is. So the definition, if you can look it up, Google it, look it up in Webster's dictionary, one of the basic definitions is showing compassion or forbearance toward an offender or towards somebody over whom you have some kind of power. And that's what's really important about mercy. You have the opportunity to do something, not just some extraneous thing that's happening out there that you feel compassion for. In the Bible, the word that is translated as mercy is called elio. Whoops. And it looks like this word here. And basically, I think mercy is a way of being that gives space between what you expect is going to happen and what you don't expect is going to happen. You know, like somebody commits a crime, you expect that they're going to be sentenced forever, but the judge is more lenient. Or it also gives space between being condemned, when you condemn someone, or you make a choice to forgive them. And it also gives space between the act of harming someone or something, or being indifferent to it, and actually expressing kindness. Mercy, I would say, is compassion, but with agency. What that means is that you have the opportunity to do something about it. Having a sympathetic concern of another's suffering, and also having the desire to alleviate it. This is something that is born within us. And I'm not here to say that the world needs more mercy, like there's something wrong out there, but I do think that Spirit is always calling us higher, always calling us to come home, to come to be our authentic self. And within us is divine mercy. And there are so many opportunities every single day to be mercy. We think that it's something bigger outside of us. We think it belongs to somebody else. But just like the meditation this morning said, we have the opportunity to harm no living thing. It's just a choice that we can make. So the picture I have up here is a picture of the Good Samaritan. And we remember in this parable, it's a really, really great story about mercy. And so there's a man that was injured, and he was on the side of the road, and two men walked by. One was a priest and one was a Levite, and they both walked by. Now, we don't know why. Maybe they were busy. Maybe they had somewhere to be at a certain time. Maybe they were afraid to help. I think we've all been in that kind of situation. But then the Samaritan comes by, the Samaritan, who was a person who was despised by the Jews at the time, and he's the one who comforts this person and takes him into town and spends his own money to heal him or to bring him back to health. And this is a story that Jesus told when he was asked, who is my neighbor? When he says, you need to love your neighbor. This is the way he answered that story. So it's interesting to think that he said that your neighbor is the one who is merciful to you. And so we can be neighbors to everyone and just look for all sorts of ways to be merciful to them. This parable reveals Jesus' ethics, and it's the ethics that he lived by. Now, you may or may not know, but in the Old Testament, God is mentioned as mercy all the time. And I think this font may be a little too small, but the point is that God is mentioned, is referred to as mercy over and over and over again. That God is merciful and gracious, that God is great in mercy. And then in Hosea chapter 6, verse 6, this is when the prophets that are always trying to kind of get people back on track, when they're thinking God is this or that, the prophets would say, I desire mercy. The God is desiring mercy, not sacrifice. And God doesn't want all these burnt offerings. God just wants mercy. God wants to see us be merciful. So God is shown as mercy in the Bible many, many, many times. Jesus is also the message of mercy. We remember that we had the opportunity. Remember, he was trying to be tricked by the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and they brought him a woman who was accused of adultery. And rather than meting out the law or the punishment that was required at that time, he said to everyone, what did he say? Who is it without sin? Cast the first stone. And so he was really, really embodying mercy. There's always something else. There's a person before me that is suffering. There's a person before me who maybe the law says that she deserves this or that, but how can I be compassionate? And he had the power to do that. And he shifted the energy of the entire crowd. And again, he's living his ethics and showing us exactly how to be. And he told his followers, therefore be merciful, just as your Father also is merciful. So I contend that mercy is a divine gift. So most of you are in unity, you know about the 12 powers, and like mercy is not one of those 12 powers, but I think it's kind of a combination. If you pull out a little bit of will and a little bit of power and a little bit of love and make kind of a concoction, you're going to get what I call divine mercy. And it is within us, and I'm going to show you right now why, because as we look at these photographs up here, and I can tell a few little stories here of divine mercy, most of us are moved when we see it. So in the upper left-hand corner, this is a man who is giving this young girl who is without shoes. He's giving her sandals, and look at the response. She is beside herself. She is just so grateful. Can't believe somebody did that for her. In the middle, just a gentleman helping a person who's disabled in a wheelchair in the rain with an umbrella. To the right, we have, upper right, we have two gentlemen who are bringing sandwiches for the homeless. And these are just people who are before them. They don't have to do anything for them. They could be like the priest or the Levite and just walk by. But they are choosing to be divine mercy and help by feeding them. Now on the left, this is a gentleman who missed his train, and everybody knows how awful it is to miss your train. Maybe not in Wichita, but in Chicago, it's not good. Missed his train to help this elderly woman come down the stairs because she was having trouble coming down the stairs. Now this morning, what popped up on my Facebook feed was this center photograph. And it's a little hard to see. I saw the video, and it was a dodo video. And it was a dog that had fallen into this kind of ravine of rushing water. And this man had kind of risked his life to get down there to rescue the dog. And then he was there, he rescued the dog. So now what? He's got to get back up. And people saw this happening. And so they formed kind of a human ladder, and it took them a long time to do this because they didn't have enough people at first, and then we needed one more person. They kind of formed this human ladder to bring this dog who's at the bottom, who had fallen into this rushing stream, to bring them up. And everybody around them was kind of cheering and kind of helping. Great, great example of mercy. And you may remember seeing this photograph. This is a firefighter who, after a fire, there was this tiny little kitten that was kind of left for dead, and he decided to do what he could to resuscitate it. And I think most of us would go, oh, that poor kitten. But look at him. He resuscitated this little kitten because it's God's creation too, right? This is the best of humanity, and we all have the opportunity to be this. We feel this. We are moved by these kinds of stories. Mercy is a divine gift. When each one of us is born, we're born with divine gifts because we are just as God is. And within us is mercy. And we have the opportunity to be mercy in our lives every single day. But I ask this question of you because it's something that we overlook a lot. And so how can we bring ourselves as divine mercy into this world? I think if we were all to look out, we would probably say the world could probably use our mercy. Do we need to keep condemning each other? Can we just give each other a little bit of slack? So where do we have that power that if we exercise that power that we will alleviate suffering? Because that's what mercy is. It's kind of compassion with also the ability to do something about it. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Mercy is compassion, also with the ability to do something about it. So I'm going to throw out a couple ways that we can do this to just get your own thoughts thinking, certainly in how we use our word. Think about all the things that you even say about yourself. There you have control. You have the capacity to alleviate your own suffering by being kind to yourself, speaking kindly to you. This is one way we can use our word to be merciful. So whenever we're talking smack about ourselves, we can make another choice and be merciful. How do we speak about others? Whenever we find ourselves gossiping, or I mentioned social media, I'm looking out, and I'm guessing most of you guys don't get involved in social media frenzies. But boy, they can happen. They can really happen where people who are anonymous, and they can say whatever they want about other people. And then we can just pull back and be kind, or even say a kind word when we see something going on like that in social media. So we have the power to alleviate suffering by being mindful with our words. And we have the power to alleviate suffering by being mindful of our actions. So I ask you to consider, what actions are you taking that could alleviate suffering versus add more? So think about how we hold grudges that causes us to suffer. We can direct mercy towards ourselves as well as others. When we hold grudges, we're causing ourselves to suffer. Some of us have the opportunity to mete out punishment. I know some of us are parents, and I know my own spiritual community had a lot of conversation about this. I mean, you don't want to let your kids just do anything. You don't want to let all the criminals go free, but there are ways to use discernment and wisdom when we decide what is the right and proper punishment. And I know that our congressional leaders are in this conversation as well. When we are involved in self-destructive behaviors, doing something that harms us, we can have mercy on ourselves by changing our behaviors. And how we act towards others, for me, it's like whoever is in front of me. I can't be merciful for everybody, but whoever's in front of me, I do my best to do that. So that includes the turtle that I see going across the road, where I stop, I pull off the road, and I help it go in the right direction. That includes the wasp that's in my house, that instead of whacking it, I put a broom up and take it outside. I'm going to tell you why that's a good idea in a minute. That includes my driving down my county road and someone in front of me ran over a rabbit, and it was still alive but kind of having some trouble, and I stopped my car and I picked it up and I put it in my lap and I let her die peacefully in my lap. Now, I know I'm kind of going outside the box for many of you, and maybe you're outside the comfort zone. But like the meditation said, that we can harm no living thing if we want to. We can be as kind and considerate of every living thing if we want to. Our consumer choices, there are so many consumer products that harm animals in particular. These are all God's creation. And we do not need to do so much product testing on animals. I'm not here to be, a political statement here, but we can make choices that cause less harm by just looking at labels. We can make choices with our food and our clothing that don't harm as many animals. You may or may not know, but just in the United States alone, we kill over 1 million animals an hour. Over 1 million an hour. And that's because we like to eat them. And we don't need to eat that many. I mean, I'm vegan. I'm not here to tell everybody they need to be vegan, but we certainly don't need to do that much. I would love to see us all be vegan, but at least we can pull back. And 1 million an hour is a great deal of violence out there. And the way in which these animals are treated are also just really, really cruel. And I know you all. You are loving, caring people who want peace and harmony and love, and those are all your values. And so many of us don't even know what we're doing. But when we find out, we can do better. We can be more merciful. I'm going to mention just a couple more things. I found this new website called betterangels.org. If anybody is suffering from people in their family who have different political ideas or different friends who have different political ideas, we live in a very polarized world right now. Betterangels.org is a really interesting organization that gets people to talking and listening and to each other to try to understand what's in their movie. But this is an interesting quote. Mercy begins by opening oneself up to those with whom one might strongly disagree. Mercy doesn't end there, of course, but it begins with such small acts of understanding which can lead to life-changing experiences of love. So I said you can be merciful in our words, in our actions, and by reaching out and understanding others. The last thing, practically speaking, I want to mention is you guys are all Unity people, so you may or may not know that Charles Fillmore was really about mercy. And this is a quote that you may not be able to see, so I'm going to go ahead and read it from this booklet as soon as I find it. Well, I can read it up here. The master on the spiritual plane is not a slave driver. He does not use force. The only law that he recognizes is love. To this law, he must be true in all its ramifications throughout the universe of forms. He must love every creature, every beast in the field, every fowl in the air. His love must flow forth in protecting streams when any creature is in danger of violence or destruction. This is a quality of mercy and justice which quickly falls into the mind opened toward God. Of course, we know that the Fillmores, you may or may not know, but the Fillmores did advocate and live a vegetarian lifestyle. They had a food company, they had a restaurant, and they lived and preached and taught harm no living thing. They really, really, really lived their word. And that's the foundation of unity. So the promise is, when you are merciful, you are happy and you will receive mercy. And this is the wonderful thing that is about this particular beatitude, that in response to giving mercy, you receive mercy in kind. So I was recently in Peru, and I had so many interesting spiritual experiences there, ceremonies, Machu Picchu, all of that. And I have to say that the most amazing experience I had was the last day when I was in Cusco and just walking down the street, and there was this woman standing there, sitting there. I hadn't seen many people in need there, but I saw her and I walked past her and I came back and I pulled a few little coins out to put in her little cup, and she grabbed my hand and she brought my hand to her mouth and kissed my hand. I have no idea what she was saying, but I swear to God, I felt like I was in the presence of God. This is what I'm saying. When you give mercy, you receive it right away. And for the people who laughed about my wasps, I've never killed a wasp, but there was a time once when I was replacing a light bulb in a recessed light fixture outdoors. I put my hand in it, and oh my gosh, I pulled my hand out, and I was a wasp nest. And my hand was completely full of wasps. Anyway, I've never been stung by a wasp. So mercy comes in many forms: the grace of God, and also the inner peace that comes from being aligned, having our thoughts and our words and our deeds aligned. So I'm going to say this again. Mercy comes from the grace of God. This is like having the wind at your back, just having a little extra help in life, more than you even deserve. And it also can come from the inner peace that comes from when you align your thoughts and your words and your deeds. And what I mean by that is we all say we're love. We all say we believe in oneness. We all say we're compassionate. We all say we're kind. And yet when we do unkind things or uncompassionate things, even if we don't know them, when we become aware of them and we change, we align ourselves with who we are, and oh my gosh, it feels so good. So blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. I invite you, as I close, going forward, to just take a personal inventory and ask yourself, where do I have power? And who do I have power over? What do I have power over? And what do I have power to do? And that's anything from people in your life to somebody who just shows up in your life, to the tiny little bug, to anything. Just be in this inquiry. What steps can I take to alleviate suffering, my own or that of another? And then how far can I stretch that boundary between who I am and another? As we evolve in consciousness, we continue to expand that circle of compassion. So it's not just our family, it becomes our community, it becomes our city, it becomes our nation, it becomes our world. And then we start reaching out and now try to get racial divides gone and the sexual divides gone. And the next one is can we get the species divide gone, so that we really look at all of God's creatures and creation in that Edenic state was the original way that humankind was created, to be in harmony with all beings. And then I invite you to be mercy to someone in a new way today and throughout this whole week. So that's my charge to everybody. And the last thing I want to say is I just invite you to attend the screening this afternoon of the movie A Prayer for Compassion. Everything I say may have been oh, that's cool. It may have been really, really disturbing. I don't know. Disturbing means God's inviting you, by the way. So come to the movie this afternoon and hear about leaders of so many different faith traditions and how they express compassion and mercy on this planet. And we're really raising the vibration to create a world of peace and harmony and also sustainability. Thank you very much for your generous listening. I appreciate it.
Reverend Carol Saunders, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you